Hi, welcome to the Clothier Roundtable. I'm Mindy Martell.
Hello, and I'm Danielle Heiser, the Design Director here at Clothier Design Source.
And today we're going to talk about developing overseas versus in the USA, or manufacturing overseas versus manufacturing in the USA.
Yeah, both Mindy and I have worked, developed and manufactured both domestically and overseas. So, working in big industry, also doing some development with CDS, both domestic and overseas. But now Clothier Design Source really does focus on development and manufacturing in the US.
Right.
Yeah.
So, some of the reasons you'd want to go make overseas are it's less expensive, labor, per hour, per day labor over there in most other countries or where people are making clothes is less than making in the US. So that really drives down the cost. So if part of your brand is, the main point of your brand is to have low cost or high volume, maybe overseas is the right match for you. What would be another pro of making overseas?
Yeah, a lot of overseas factories, especially in China, have acquired a lot of automation equipment. So if your product has a lot of complexity, but maybe it's an outerwear garment that requires lots of labor or automation, those are good candidates for manufacturing overseas to keep the cost down.
Right. Some cons, some cons of making overseas, which our list is probably going to be longer for that because we are a U.S. manufacturer, is communication. If you have a complex product and you're trying to work with a partner that's helping you develop it and kind of giving you input and helping with that development process, that communication can be very difficult. That's definitely one con of making there.
Yeah, that's a huge con, and just more details on that. So if you're developing a product, you need to be sampling it, and so you give your initial tech pack overseas, and then you receive a sample back from your factory, and you have to give comments, and then they'll interpret your comments, hopefully correctly, but usually that doesn't happen. And then make another sample and send it back. And I've seen a lot of instances where they have to prototype something 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 times and they still don't have it right, and it ends up taking so much time that they have to drop that style from a certain season and move it to the next season. So communication is difficult and it causes extended timelines with development.
Yeah, and so back to the pro, working with overseas factory, they do much better if you have everything completely figured out. 100% figured out. Your sizing is figured out, your pattern is figured out, your fit, your construction methods, everything is figured out. And so then they're very good at just taking that and rolling with it. But again, if you're trying to tweak anything or develop anything with them, that can be super difficult. You kind of touched on that, but I think development timelines can be much longer.
Yes.
Because of the communication problem. So, usually different time zones you're dealing with too. If you need an answer about something, you could shoot off an email, and you're always going to have at least 1 day delay in between the communication process, back and forth. So that really adds to the timeline. Shipping adds to the timeline quite a bit. You can allow about 30 days for shipping from China if you want to go via boat, which is the most affordable way. So there's two just examples of how the timeline can be longer when you go overseas versus working in the US.
I think overseas is usually a really good candidate for large quantity orders. So, if you're thinking about orders of 10,000 units, overseas is a good option for you. If you're thinking of, definitely anything under 1,000 units, you want to keep, some factories won't even accept that. But even if a factory does accept your order and it's not enough to fill a whole container on a cargo ship, you have to then hire a cargo broker, shipping broker, so then they can find another shipment that doesn't also fit a cargo that's coming to the U.S. that they can pair your product in. So it's so complex. The shipping can be from overseas if you're gonna ship via boat, that can cause a ton of extra expense and time as well. You can always ship by air. It's very costly to ship by air from overseas to the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, many companies have just full-time logistics departments working with getting their product from overseas into the U.S. because it's not only the shipping, but it's the customs that you have to pass, and then the tariffs and duties that you have to pay. So, you know, those are kind of hidden costs too that work into your product when you make overseas. So if you do get a price from an overseas manufacturer, a lot of people new to the industry forget to add on shipping cost, delayed time in communication, and that's money, and then tariffs and duties, and then after you get it into land, if you're not on a coast, you also have to take another shipment and bring it in further. So you can add all those costs on, which can average, depending on what you're making, but I would say that could be anywhere from $5 to $15 extra per product.
So that goes back to when you order large quantities, like 10,000 units, you can spread the cost of that logistics team over all those units.
For instance, if you make with us and it's time to ship, there's no headache whatsoever. You know, as we get your address, we ship it. That's it. There's no customs, there's no paperwork, no tariffs, no duties, nothing, you know, that you have to work through. So that's definitely like a nice, easy thing about making in America.
This logistics of location is huge. You know, working with the U.S. factory, you can come visit us anytime. You know, you can come visit, you can meet all of our team in person, you can see the conditions that we're working in. We have a lot of clients who actually pick up their production. You know, they drive and actually pick it up, which is pretty cool. On the flip side, it's a very time-consuming and expensive to visit a factory overseas, and there's a lot of very large factories that are even difficult to see everything that's going on there. And one other thing with overseas factories is there's a lot of outsourcing that can happen with an overseas factory, and certain countries I think are more guilty of this than others. But what will happen is, in order to get the price down, is that factory can't even afford to make it in-house, and so they'll farm it out to like little villages and things in the countryside and have it manufactured, and who knows who's making it then. Like, you know, I mean, we've all seen videos of little kids and people making stuff in kind of crazy conditions. So, you know, from if you really want to know who's making your clothes, the only way you can do it is do it in the U.S.
Visibility throughout the whole supply chain, if that's important to you and to your brand and to your marketing, you know, and then to your end consumer, you know, making in the U.S. is a sure bet.
Yes.
You know, you can visit it, the factory, you can have a personal relationship with them, like you were saying.